All right. We are live. This is episode number 8 of the Authentic You podcast. My voice sounds like shit because I have lost my voice, but so we'll bear with us. My boy Ray here will probably do most of the talking through the podcast. Ray or Raymond, whichever we kind of bounce back and forth through, is the third generation owner of the El Ranchito taco shop. 18 total in the family, which is absolutely amazing. And first and foremost, want to thank you for jumping on. We literally just met today.
Yeah.
So this is probably going to be as real and as authentic of a conversation as you can. We've obviously exchanged a few text messages and messages on Instagram, stuff like that. But we both know Ernie from In the Cuts Barber, and that's really how we got connected. He obviously, you saw our podcast together, and then kind of gave him a little bit of shit. It was like, you had a podcast about business owners, and you didn't bring me on. Like, what the hell? So I appreciate connecting with me, man. I'm really interested in the story, and obviously there's a lot of stuff for us to dive into. So let's just start with how people can find you, because I think that's a good way for people to be able to connect after this. And then obviously we're going to get into the family business. So.
Yeah. So the easiest way to, like, if anyone wanted to reach out to me and ask me questions afterwards, is email is tacoshopray@hotmail.com. You can find our Instagram on Ranchito Elsinore. Same thing with Facebook. You can go on Facebook and go to facebook.com/Ranchito Elsinore. And those are probably the easiest ways to get a hold of me.
Perfect.
Unless I gave you my personal cell. But
yeah, don't do that on here. I will tell you, somebody else made the mistake of doing that and it got used.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially right now, tax season, you'll just get a bunch of IRS like fake, like you owe back taxes. Reach out to us. We can solve your problem. So third generation. So who was the founder? Who started it?
So the story that I know, because it could change here and there, but the story that I know is that my grandfather's brother, so my mom's deal, is the one that opened up the first actual taco shop in Ramona, I believe in the 70s. I don't know the exact year for them.
Okay.
And basically what it was prior to that, the story that I know from my grandfather was that in the 60s, he was always coming here as an immigrant, working the fields, working in restaurants, typical immigrant work. And then when his brother opened up the taco shop, he went to work with him. And then my aunts and uncles, so my mom is actually the second oldest of 11 siblings. And they all started coming here to work at the shop. And at some point, that uncle, my mom's uncle, opened up, he had a location in Santee, so just south in San Diego. And he sold that business to my grandfather. And so that's technically the one that we consider our first one.
Got it.
And so the location in Santee opened up. All the brothers and sisters were working that location. Most of them. Some of them weren't born yet.
Yeah.
And then we eventually grew from that location to Poway, Lake Elsinore, and then we just moved on, and Hemet, San Jacinto, all the way out to Palm Springs area.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's a big family. So all the aunts and uncles had their own location. Some of them had 2. Some of them at some point had 3. And now we're on to the third generation. So I was the first one of all the cousins to take over one of the businesses. Basically, my parents had Lake Elsinore and Temecula. And then my mom said, hey, you know what? We really need you to go to Lake Elsinore and start managing that one, because I was working in Temecula at the time. Temecula was booming, growing. I had learned how to cook at that location and manage the kitchen at that location. So they sent me to Lake Elsinore, and then within the first year, they just said, hey, you know what? We're going to go ahead and sell you the business. And then at that point is when really I became the owner. And now I have other cousins that have eventually followed and opened up their own as well. So, but yeah, that's kind of like the backstory of how we got to 18 locations from the first one.
Yeah. It's funny because my very first experience with the restaurant was actually in Cathedral City.
Okay.
So I grew up in Orange County, moved up to Northern California, and had an opportunity to come back, and I had to go to work in Palm Desert. Well, you can't afford, I couldn't afford at that time. I was like 20 years old or 19 or 20 years old. I couldn't afford to live in Palm Desert. Just not going to happen. So I ended up in Cat City. And if you know Cathedral City, it could be, you know, a little bit of a rough area, at least in the time that I was there. It was probably 15 years ago. And literally was like maybe a block and a half, 2 blocks away. And it was popping. Yeah. I mean, that place, you go in there like Friday, Saturday night, and it was just like, it felt like home. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's kind of cool because like the environment is like, it's a little bit of like a mix of 2 things, right? Like it's kind of like the mix, and you've done a great job specifically for the Elsinore one. We'll talk about that. But that was my first experience, was just going in there. I was like, this is a cool spot because it kind of feels like it's not some little chain, but it's not some big crazy restaurant where like, you know, you're going to break the bank either. So it's like a place that you can eat at on a Tuesday night, or you can go there on a Friday night. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I tell people all the time, we serve restaurant quality food at a like fast food price, you know, and that's really what you get with us. I mean, we do have a full service restaurant in La Quinta, I think it is, or out in that area. I always confuse La Quinta, Cathedral City, the Palm Desert area. Yeah. Because I don't live out there, but we actually do have a sit down restaurant, and they cook the same stuff. It's just bigger portions on plates served to you. But that's why I tell people, I'm like, hey, look, we're giving you, and that's the thing, right? I go to restaurants. I'm a foodie, so just because I own a taco shop doesn't mean I'm not going to go eat at other Mexican restaurants or at Mexican food places. I like to try everyone. And I get disappointed sometimes, man, going to like sit down restaurants expecting to get like real good food. And I'm like, man, I should have just gone to my place or something, you know, like, so I'm really proud of the food that we serve. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, look, man, you're not going to get better quality for the price that you're getting with us.
Yeah. So how long ago exactly did you take over Lake Elsinore?
So 2013. So 10 years now.
Wow.
11 years. Yeah, I went to Elsinore. And then the story's kind of funny because my kitchen manager has been with us for a long time. Like, he saw me growing up. I think he was like 18 or 19 when he started, and I was probably like 8 or 9, like nice. Little kid in the kitchen just running around. Yeah. But the thing is that he knows me like for a long time, but he didn't see the work that I put in because I put in my work in Temecula. And in Temecula is where I did all the cooking and managing. And so when I actually went to Lake Elsinore, it was kind of that feel of like, it's just the boss's kid coming in to kind of, you know, tell us what to do, you know? And so I had to earn my respect there. And what I did was, so when I took over Lake Elsinore, I looked at the sales, and the sales were doing half of what Temecula was at the time, but we had the same amount of staff. And then like the food would come out. So I'm like, guys, how is it that we have the same amount of people working in Lake Elsinore doing half the amount of sales, but taking twice as long to get the food out? I go, it's not making any sense. Yeah. And so when I was looking at how they were working, right, they weren't organized. They didn't have a system. Because what kind of happened was my mom had worked in Lake Elsinore for when they opened it up, but when they went to Temecula, and because Temecula grew so quickly, she had to dedicate all her time over there. And my dad he's the gringo of the family, by the way. That's why I look white. My last name's Moon. But he never really worked the restaurant up until we opened up Temecula, and my mom said, hey, you need to come and help us. And he always did more of like the business side of things anyway. So what happened was we kind of allowed Elsinore to be ran by some of the longtime employees, and then my dad was just kind of managing. So when I took over in Temecula, we had a system. We had to be on point because of how busy we were. And when I went over to Lake Elsinore, that was the first thing I noticed. I'm like, well, there's no system here. You know, they're kind of just doing things the way they've always been used to doing them, and they can't keep up. So I started putting a system in place, and then they started thinking that I was just making changes just to make them. One of the guys told me, well, you're just trying to make us like Temecula. And I said, well, if that means that our sales are like Temecula, then yes, I want to make us just like Temecula. And then what I started doing, because there was a lot of conflict in between employees, and what I did was said, all right, you guys have been here for too long. You guys haven't been getting paid what you deserve. All these things that I felt, needed some changes. So what I did was, like, my general manager, I sent him on a 2-week paid vacation. I said, you're going to go on vacation. And I didn't have the money to really do that. So what I did was I took his place, right? I covered the payroll by working it myself. But what that did was it showed the rest of the employees, like they were like, well, this guy knows what he's doing. Because I was opening the shop, I was doing all the cooking. And then when he came, and then things were kind of working smoother, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, see, it's his fault that things aren't operating the way they should.
Oh, shit.
Well, but then I sent the next guy on vacation and I took his spot. If he was working the grill, that's the position I worked for 2 weeks. And then the same thing happened. Like they were like, see, everything's operating smoothly. It's his fault. And then after I sent like 4 of the main guys that had been there for a while on their vacations, by the time I was done, I had worked every position. And not only had I worked every position, if there was something that needed to be done that didn't necessarily like was my job, I would still do it because that's the way that I grew up working. And then they saw that. They were like, dude, this guy's doing my job. And they were kind of embarrassed about it because one guy started getting down and cleaning out the drains. And then another employee was like, dude, in the 10 years I've been here, I've never seen him on his knees cleaning out drains. But the only reason why he did that was because he saw that I was doing his job for him without him, saying, hey, can you help me with this?
Yeah.
I just did it because it was right, and I didn't have anything else to do. So basically in that short period of time, I earned their respect because they realized, one, that I knew what I was doing. I wasn't just telling them to do things a certain way because I wanted them to. It was there was a reason behind it. And then I had told them too, I go, hey, once these sales pick up here, I don't want to be the only one that benefits from it. You guys are all here helping me. And if it's not for you guys, I can't do what I need to do. So if the shop starts improving, then I want your guys' life to improve too. And that was always my goal. And it took a while, and at the end of the day, the way that I ended up making my changes you're going to lose some people. Not everyone's going to get on board, and I did. I lost a couple of guys. There was a period, and it wasn't because of that, but there was a period where, like, I was down. I lost, like, 4 cooks at one time, so I was working open to close, me, my brother-in-law, my kitchen manager. But you get through it, and those periods, I feel like everyone needs to go through them.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're a business owner and you're not, the best thing you can do is get in there with your team, and out of that, we started hiring the right people and getting more people on board that once they were in, because they were fresh, they had to do it the way that I wanted them to do it. It's sometimes it's harder to get those bad habits out than to just train someone that's new and fresh.
Yeah.
That's why I'm never opposed to like hiring high school kids for their first job. Because I'm like, all right, cool. They're going to be able to work the nights and weekends that no one else wants to work.
Yep.
And then I can train them the way I want to train them because it's their first job.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the beginning of everything right there. And then it's kind of funny because when everything started going up for me was in 2019, I had an opportunity to expand. So next to us was the Blockbuster used to be next to us.
Yeah.
All right. And we all know what happened to Blockbuster, right?
Bye.
So it was a big empty building next to us forever. Spirit of Halloween would go in there and whatnot.
Sign of a failed business, just fucking spirit.
So I heard a rumor that like I don't know if it was Wings and Things or something was going to go in next to us. And I was kind of stoked. I was like, cool. Because at the time I was like kind of like a beer connoisseur. I was like, so I'm like, all right, cool. They're going to have some craft beer. And then the deal fell through. And then I thought about it and I'm like, why don't I just expand and open up like a sports bar?
Yeah.
I was like, people like to go get wings and beer or pizza and beer or have like little league events at these pizza places. I'm like, well, people like tacos and beer and people like to kids like our bean and cheese burrito. I'm like, so I wanted to create like an atmosphere where people can have their little league parties at a taco shop instead. And so I didn't really have the money for it, but I kind of just, at that point, I relied on my parents. I'm like, hey, if I do this, can you guys help me out? And that's the thing with having a big family is we've always helped each other out. So we don't rely on a bank to like give us the money and have to pay back all this interest. Like we kind of get together and just help each other out. Yep. And so I did this expansion and we basically doubled our size. I modernized the sports bar area, put 10 TVs up, 18 beers on tap. I put free arcades for the kids because what my thinking is I'll make more money on a parent that's having a good time with his kid hanging out. Yep. They might order another drink or another taco or something while the kids are over there, just playing some games. And they're like retro games. They're nothing special, but dude, they love them,
Yeah.
That was in 2019. And then, of course, COVID. So I'm like, all right, cool. Got this bar up and running. And here's just a little small point that I want to make. We actually scheduled a family trip to Hawaii right before I was going to open the bar because I had a scheduled date for when it was supposed to open. And I had a scheduled date for when they were going to start charging me rent and everything on that new expansion. And things got kind of like hairy with everything because I ended up going over the budget like twice as much of what I originally thought I was going to spend. It was crazy. I don't know till this day where I got the money from. Like I just like God works his miracles and
money finds its way.
Yeah.
Story of a business owner, entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Just figure it out.
Well, and it's like, I mean, right off the bat, as soon as I signed the agreement, I found out I had to pay like a $15,000 water hookup fee. I didn't budget that because I didn't know that. I'm like, what am I hooking up?
Yeah.
It's just the water district trying to like get free money. I'm like, this is like this building's already been here for over 25 years. What are you guys hooking up?
Yeah.
But anyways, it's just I always say like things were meant to be because had I known that I was going to pay those fees at the beginning, I might have not even pulled the trigger, Yeah. And then I pulled the trigger and found out I had to pay this. And now I'm like, what am I going to do? Anyways, so we planned a family vacation to Hawaii. Well, I had to cancel it because the way that everything ended up getting built out when we were supposed to open all this stuff. And I only bring it up because I tell people, I'm like, sometimes people will make the comments like, well, you have this nice car or look at and I'm like, but those don't come without sacrifices. I look at friends and family sometimes that are out on vacations every single year. And I'm like, well, you guys got to enjoy these vacations. And that's great, because that's what you guys like. But look at the sacrifice. Like I haven't been on a vacation in like these last 3-4 years because when I was supposed to go on one, this happened and then COVID hit and then, and so those are sacrifices that sometimes you have to do to get to where you're at, and now we're at a point like I'm in the process of opening up another business and I'm like, I want to get a vacation in before we do that. So I'm going to try to plan that, but.
Bro, let me know. I can hook you up in San Diego. I got a bunch of hookups out there if you want to go out there.
Appreciate it, man. But, so back to the kind of like the story and COVID hits right when we open the bar, right? It's about to take off. I'm a big proponent of word of mouth, right? So I didn't want to send out flyers and coupons and promote the bar and all this stuff because I wanted to make sure that my staff was going to grow as people were aware of it. And the busier we got, the more staff I can hire and train. I didn't want to promote it, get rushed by all these people and then take too long on serving them, just provide poor quality service, So I relied heavily on word of mouth as it grew, and then it started growing. Everything was going as planned. And then COVID hits. And when COVID hit, at the beginning, the first couple of months were hard because everyone was panicked, right? No one knew what was going to happen and all this. The one thing that I did was I didn't cut hours. I didn't send people home. I said, whoever wants to work can continue coming to work. And as long as there's work to do and we can pay the bills, then I'm not going to force you guys to do something you guys don't want to do. And I want you guys to still be able to pay your bills. And then it was kind of like a blessing in disguise because for the restaurant industry, not for everyone, the sit down restaurants got hit hard.
Yeah.
But the takeout places, dude, we were popping because now DoorDash, I signed up for DoorDash, something that I probably would have never done because I didn't believe in like a third party paying them 25% of our, all that stuff. But we were kind of forced to, and it in a sense, again, another blessing because people that had never heard of us, and it's crazy, right? At the time, we were there for 30 years. And you'd be surprised how many people are like, where's that place? Yeah. Well, you know what? Like, I'm like, damn, we've been in Elsinore for 30 years and you guys have never heard of us? Like, but DoorDash and all those places, like, it's kind of like another marketing tool because people that maybe aren't going out are finding you through a different, the
revenue. Pictures on there, just, the reviews, all of that.
So we didn't have the people in the business, the customers coming inside, but as far as how busy we were busy because we were taking to go. And then I created different kinds of jobs for the cashiers because this is where other owners got greedy. They saw that they were making money, but they didn't have to have 2 or 3 cashiers because what are they cleaning? They're not going out to clean bus tables or anything. Yeah. They really could get away with one cashier taking the phone calls or the DoorDash and then just boxing everything to go. I didn't do that. I made sure that my staff was still employed, and I created different work for them. So I said, okay, well, we can't have our salsa bar open. So your job is to fill up all the salsa cups to go. That way, when they come, they can just grab the salsa cups. Yeah. You know, little things like that. We deep cleaned what we could. I had them on ladders, cleaning like vents and fans and whatever, you know, and we found jobs that normally we probably don't do, you know, 99% of the time. And at the end of the day, everyone stayed. You know, I retained all my staff, because then once things started opening up, people were short staffed. Well, not me. I mean, at the end of the day, I had everyone still there. I actually had to hire more people because we were still busy. And it was just a blessing. And so, one thing during COVID that was kind of funny that some people will recall is, everyone freaked out, and then the beer companies were telling me, well, what are you going to do with all your beer? Because it's going to go bad. Yeah. And I know some places just let it go bad. You know, they hadn't passed the laws yet that allowed you to sell beer to go. Yeah. So what I did was I made a Facebook post on one of the groups that I'm in, and I'm like, bring whatever containers you have, and I basically charged them like a penny, because you can't give away alcohol. Yeah. I said, I'm going to charge you a penny, and then make a donation to whatever you'd like. And dude, there's a picture of me filling up a 5-gallon water jug.
Fuck yeah.
I didn't fill it up all the way. I'm bro, this is too big. You know, I gave him like a gallon of beer, but it was another way of people coming in. 'Cause I'm like, well, this stuff's going to go to waste. I might as well either give it away and
donate it.
We made enough on donations to cover the cost of the beer.
That's sick.
And then not only that, but it was another way of advertising. Dude, we we weren't supposed to, because people were supposed to be 6 feet apart. But we had a line out the door of people with their jugs, you know.
I never saw that. That would have been sick, though. But can we take a quick pause? I want to pay you some compliments, man, because we just went through a pretty long story from you taking over in 2013 and going all the way to COVID. I mean, that's a 7-year run, right? Yeah. And I want to pay you a couple compliments as one, a business owner, two, as somebody who started as. Literally, I started as a cashier in a parking booth and had to work every position up, you know, and then also, you know, I'm a father of two young individuals, and like, well, one just turned 19, the other's 14, so not so young anymore. But you know, I want to pay you a couple compliments. Compliment number one is, you know, you took over a family business, and it's very easy to put your feet up. Right? Or coast or keep going. But you knew you had no chip on your shoulder, and you knew, I got to earn the respect. The only way I'm going to do that is by working these positions. But instead of just doing it and like, you know, working the positions and be like, look, I could do what you fucking do. You literally gave these people vacations. Yeah. You know what I mean? That is a very, very, very rare thing for somebody to come in and do that, and like to earn their keep, earn the respect of their colleagues and the people that have been there for a long time, and show them you're not just the boss's kid, right? Yeah. So that's compliment number one. Compliment number two is being willing to invest in young people. Right now, I'm the most scared for our next generation. Your third generation, there's going to be a fourth generation. All of us are watching as the people who grew up in kind of the 2010s, 2020s, like those are going to be the next generation of people that are the leaders and the, you know, business owners and the people taking care of us as we get older. Right. And so they had a really fucked up way of getting to where they're at today, and a lot more technology to make them a little bit more introverted. And so by you deciding you're going to invest in some of those young people, get them in, like, let me teach them. Yeah. How it's done. You know what I mean? That's really the only way. Not a lot of people are willing to do this today, but I really think it's a skill, and it's a sign of a true leader to reach back and pull people up with you, even if it slows you down a little bit, which it does. Let's be real. Yeah. You could easily hire people that have restaurant experience. You could easily hire people that, you know what I mean, might be a little bit older and can, you know, navigate through conversations with angry people and, you know, have more social awareness and stuff like that.
Well, real quick, just to make a point and give a shout out to my staff. So I'm in a position now where I'm not really working the lines anymore. So when I say I'm training them, it's really my staff that's training them, right? I'm giving the kids the opportunity because I still do all the hiring, But it really, I mean, shout out to my staff because they're the ones that are with the kids. And now I put them all in a position where it's like, I'm not going to overbear them either. Like, I basically tell them when I hire them, you're going to have a couple of weeks of just kind of learning as you go. Like, but I put them on as an extra. Again, it's an expense, right? They're just there as an extra. But I say, I put them with someone to work with them. And then I tell them, and basically after 2 weeks, you'll have your own shift. You know, you're not an extra anymore. So, but yeah, shout out to my staff because they're the ones that really work with these guys and train them. But, and then I'll give my input if I see little things here and there, you know, hey, this is how I learned how to do it. Because aside from the kitchen stuff, I mean, when I was as far back as I can remember, man, I mean, 6, 7 years old, my mom had me taking orders as a register on the register, you know, pelando tomatillo. Now we're kind of spoiled because the vegetable companies give us these tomatillos already peeled and cleaned. When I was a kid, that was like one of my favorite things to do is we would put them in this bucket of water, and then I'd peel all the tomatillos. My hands would come out all black, but it was fun. I got really good at it. And then we would do races, like who can do more. And but I mean, I have a cut from when I have a good scar from when I was 11, learning how to do stuff. And I wasn't supposed to. It's my mom was like, all right, if you're going to help in the kitchen, you can help, but don't grab the knives. Yeah. Well, she would walk out, and then that'd be the first thing I would do because I would see everyone else, and I wanted to do the same thing. And so I have the scars and the experience from when I was a kid, but and now I bring my 7 and 6-year-old in with me, and I have them cleaning tables and doing little jobs here and there, just so that they understand that, like, hey, this is what I did when I was your age, and kind of get them on the right path. But I just wanted to make that note because you know, I want my staff to get, you know, their shout outs for them doing their jobs too.
For sure. The last compliment I was going to pay you too is just handling the way you handled COVID. I mean, at the end of the day, you watched kind of a lot of businesses do, you know, the big businesses were going to stay around and do what they wanted to do. Some of the big businesses did the right things. Like I have a parking business and we run Google campuses, and they paid all of the employees all the way through. And obviously Google took off because everybody was at home, but you know, a lot of respect to those people who are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in, you know, payroll and taxes and, you know, management fees and all that stuff. But you're sitting here, same thing, a small business owner, you know, I say small, you guys obviously have 18, right? Family owned. But the reality is you have one store that has to independently be successful. Right. And you had to reinvent what you were going to do. And by the way, the Lake Elsinore one, I started living here in like 2010, 2011, somewhere in that range. And I don't think I even had known it was there for a year or so. And then I remember going in there and literally thinking the same thing. I was like, man, it'd be really cool if they served beer in here. And so when you guys expanded, it was awesome. And then same thing, when you guys did open, you know, my son was still young enough. It was awesome. You go in there, I pull out quarters thinking I'm going to have to pay for the games. I'm like, oh shit, I don't even have to pay for the games. Like, this is great. Yeah. Let me just eat a couple tacos, like let him run around, do his thing. Yeah, it's perfect, dude. So you're spot on with I mean, obviously you're a father. Yeah. So you got it. You understand. And I think a lot of businesses, they fail to think about the consumer first. Like you have to think about the consumer. Who's going to want you can't take that. Like you can't go with how am I going to make the profit first? Like you have to kind of reverse engineer it. It's like, how do I make sure I have the best well-trained team that can provide the best service or best environment for service? And then from there, your customer base will grow. Yep. Because as long as they're happy with the service, the food, you know, or whatever the product is, you know, depending on what your business is, then they're going to come back.
And that's the thing. Unless you're on the side of the freeway in the middle of nowhere, you know, a business like mine depends on repeat customers, right?
Yeah.
You know, and that's I got customers that come in every day, and sometimes I'm like, you're going to order something different this time, you know? And they order the same thing, but that's what you rely on are these guys that come in all the time. And for me, if they can come in once a week, that's great, you know? When I was working in the kitchen as a cook, I remember a customer that would always come in and order the same taco. And by the time he was done paying for it, we'd already have it ready. Yeah. But like, I'm like, one of these days, we're going to
make that, and
he's going to be like, no, you know what? I tried something else today.
Has it happened?
It never happened, actually. No, it never happened.
That's funny. You should just giving him something else to try. Like at some point in time.
You know what though? Like we do, like we'll offer them, or sometimes there are customers that order something else, but when you're so like, and I get it, because your mind and you're already trained, like, you know what you want and what it's expecting. So even when you try something new, you kind of get disappointed because you're like, I should have stuck with my usual, you know? And that's why sometimes too, even with like, I'm pretty firm on certain things. Like I know our food is good and I stick to what a fair price is. And sometimes if a customer complains saying like, well, I think it's too expensive, I'm like, you're more than welcome to try the competition, right? I'll point them out to a couple different local spots. But the thing is that if they're used to eating our taquitos and the place down the street is cheaper by 50 cents, they're going to go, but they're going to try it and it's not going to be what they expected. And I'm not saying that it's bad. It's just different. And their body and what they're expecting is already El Ranchito taquitos. Yeah. So they're going to pay that. They're going to come back and be like, all right, I'll pay the 50 cents because that's what I want.
Can I tell you something funny? That's what my daughter orders. And the taquitos are way different because you go to a normal Mexican restaurant and the taquitos are usually just too deep fried and it's more shell than it is meat. With your guys' it's softer shelled and it's literally like packed with like whatever you get, you know. Yeah. So I was going to ask you this. What is your favorite item on the menu?
Dude, it changes over the years, you know, like, I mean, I still remember as a kid, my favorite tacos were probably the potato tacos because my mom would make me just the potato tacos with cheese. And that's what she would take me to like, while I was at a practice or something playing sports. And I remember that was just like my favorite thing back then. And then at some point, like in high school, she would always, before we could drive, I'd call her and be like, hey mom, can you deliver like, shredded beef tacos because that's what all my friends wanted, and we would just have like shredded beef tacos for lunch. And nice. Right now, man, I don't know what it is, but I'm like really hooked on our fish tacos for whatever reason. So when people say, I'm like, dude, our fish tacos are really good. So yeah, and but it's a phase. Like I go through because I've been the one thing I'll say this is that like been eating it my whole life. I've been eating it literally since I was like conceived, right? Because my mom ate it when she was pregnant with me. So, and I've never gotten sick of it.
Yeah. You know? It's literally in your blood.
Yeah, it's literally. And it's like we have such a big menu too, like so much variety that you can eat so many different items, you know, and everything's pretty much made from scratch there. And that's the other thing too, is that's why I try to limit turnover because it's why I try to limit turnover and why I try not to add more menu items because when someone does have to get trained, the more menu items you have, like it's harder for them to learn the whole menu. Yeah. And when I do add a menu item, I try to make sure it's with ingredients that we already use there and that the job's not too hard. You know, it doesn't take too much time. I just added ceviche and it was pretty simple and it was something I added wings. You know, it's a taco shop, but I added wings because of the whole sports bar thing. Yeah. And so those were a couple things, but I even asked my guys feedback. I'm like, so what do you guys think? Is it is it too much extra work for? No, they're good.
Have you killed a couple items from the menu? Like, is there an item that you threw up there or was on there for a while and you're like, you know what, nobody orders this?
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the other thing too, is we have, so our family parties sometimes consist of just business talk because that's what everyone has in common. Right. So, and what my uncle in Poway one time, he's like, yeah, I started selling enchiladas like Mexico, like the ones in Mexico, like the little enchiladitas with cabbage and salsa mexicana and so I'm like, oh, dude, that sounds good. He's like, we kill it. Like, we sell a lot of them. So I put it on the menu at one point, and I just saw, like, over the year that, like, it just wasn't selling enough. So I took it off. Another thing I took off, we used to sell, like, a flying saucer, which I took it off because it's literally a taco salad, except it's flat. And back in the day, we didn't do the taco salads. We had flying saucers. And ever since we started doing the taco salad shell, that's what people order.
I would have just thought that was a tostada. That's how white I am.
Well, and it really is. It's just on a flour tortilla.
Okay,
so it's bigger.
Got it.
And we added meat to it. But we just never sold them anymore, so I took it off. And then it's funny because the one time I finally take it off, and I'm looking, right? Now I have a POS system that, like, I can go from, like, today back the whole year and see how many items have sold throughout the whole year. Yeah. And it was like we sold one flying saucer once a month, and it's all right. It makes no sense, right? as soon as I take it off, someone hits me up on Instagram. Hey, why'd you take off the
You
flying saucer?
motherfucker.
I'm like, you must have been that one person.
Just make it. Is that? I think now I understand how secret menus are created. Is that now a secret menu? Like,
No,
if I go in there and go, let me get a flying saucer, will somebody make it?
probably. It really just depends who's working. You know, I mean, if I'm there and I tell the guys, hey, because I really try to like be strict now too on like custom orders and stuff because people can get. The problem is this: if you do something custom for someone that's not on the menu, let's say we do it that one time, but then another cashier's working the next time, and she's like, "Well, I'm not really supposed." Then it starts creating problems because then they're like, "Well, the other cashier did it for me. The other cook," and then maybe the cook that's working that shift, maybe he doesn't even because let's say it's a new cook right now. He might not even know what a flying saucer is because we never had it on the menu since he was hired.
Yeah.
So he might be like, "Well, what's that?"
Yeah.
And then now the customer's like, "Well, you guys made it for me last time." So that's why I really try to like, not do those things nowadays. Like I try to be more professional. We used to allow like on our number 7 is 3 street tacos, rice and beans. Okay, so back in the day when we weren't as busy, we used to let you like pick and choose your meats for each one. Now, if you order the number 7, you have to get the same meat. And the reason why I do this is like one, the combo is meant to be a little bit cheaper for the customer, but also easier to make for the cooks.
Correct.
When you're and then they're like, well, what's the difference between me ordering that and me ordering 3 separate tacos? Well, the difference is the price now. Because you order them individually, you're paying more, which allows the cook to take their because they're going to take longer too, right?
You got to get different meats.
And then it
got to cook different meats,
and it makes things easier too, man. Because they're not messing things up. Like the simpler things can be, the less errors there are. And that was a big thing when we started on DoorDash. DoorDash customers would type in their custom stuff like, I want this, I don't want this, can you do this? And then we were getting a lot of like bad reviews and like having to do a lot of refunds because of mistakes. Yeah. So I made it to where I give you the options and I give you a few basic substitutions and that's it. And guess what? Now we got like over 8,000 reviews. I think we're averaging like 4.7 and we rarely have a refund. Like it just makes life easier for everyone, So
I'll tell you, my favorite item is the pozole, which I clearly need right now. But the pozole, it's the same thing. You don't expect like a taco shop to have that, right? When you hear taco shop, like you're like, oh,
every day.
Yeah, and you have it every day. You have menudo as well, right?
Yeah.
And I probably said that wrong, but
no, you're good. Well, because here's the other thing too, is that like tricks of the trade, right? Like menudo used to be just a weekend thing, and it still is at a lot of places. Because the traditional way of doing it is you get the big slab of tripe and you have to clean it, and it's a process. Some of our other locations still do it that way, but the meat company that we use, you can pay a little bit more and they sell it to you already cleaned and cut.
Got it.
So again, for me, I'd rather just pay more for the product, but I'm saving time on labor. And now we can do it every day. So we cook whatever portion we're going to do for the day, and it's fresh. It's easier on the staff, and it's still a good quality. That's the biggest thing too. Is I always make sure that the quality is good. I don't try to skip these steps, if just for the sake of skipping them and saving a few bucks. At the end of the day, the product's what matters, and if the product's going to come out the same, then if we can skip a step but pay a little bit more, I'll do it.
Well, I think that also like gives you consistency. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, like people know they're going to get that consistent quality food versus like if you're only making it on the weekends, like, I mean, yeah, you might have the same staff that works every weekend, but it's not something that they're so regimented to do.
And you bringing up the consistency, this is a pro tip for anyone looking to open up a restaurant or any business really. Be consistent in your hours and the days you're going to work. Because I have another employee of mine that moved to Texas, and he hit me up. He goes, "Hey, I'm going to open up a shop," and I gave him as much advice as he would ask me for, right? Yeah. But I'm watching like the way I'm watching his process, and you'll see them post on Instagram. Sometimes it'll say like, okay, we're open today from these hours to these hours. And then the next day it'll be like, we're open, but we don't have this item. And then the next day it's like, we're only going to be open in the afternoon. I'm like, there's no way that a business is going to be successful like that, because even with me, when I go to a place, we just found this really good Lebanese food place in Marietta that I guess they've been there for almost a year, but again, like they fall through the cracks, right? Yeah. We found them. Food was great. Place was empty. I'm like, what's going on here? But then when we went again the next week to go eat again, they had closed early. Yeah. And then we went again the week after that, and they were gone. They closed that day for a family emergency, which I get it because they're so short staffed that it's really just the family working. But that deters you from like, now my wife's like, I don't really feel like going because we're going to go again and what, like. Yeah. So consistency for those of you trying to open up a business is very key.
Yeah, I won't name the local place here, but during COVID I found a place. Excuse me. And it was really good. And I mean, same thing, like would almost go weekly, just boom, 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 boom. And then more opened. They opened more and like more stores. And then all of a sudden the family who was probably running it handed it off. And, here we are a couple of years later, and it's like, now it's like, maybe a once a month kind of thing, because unfortunately there was a period of time where that quality just completely changed. And I remember like all of a sudden, like going from every Friday. So I was like, it's not really that fun anymore. It doesn't taste that good anymore. The quality's not that good anymore. And then we ended up navigating over and finding a new kind of Friday spot. And that place is like a sit down, and it was fucking great. And now that is like my, kind of every day.
So,
or every week.
So now we can kind of transition actually to the whole, like I had mentioned to you, people say that the third generation is the one that kind of destroys the family business. And I'll explain that. But sometimes it doesn't even take the third generation, because what happens a lot of these places is the family or the owner is in there when they open up the business, and they're putting in the work, right? Because they don't have the money to have all this staff. They don't have the customers yet. So like you said, everything was great when the family was there. But what happens a lot of the times is that once they build that clientele and they have their staff, they no longer want to like work there, or like, and I'm not saying you have to be in the trenches, but they don't even want to like, I mean, I've seen it where owners don't even go to their business anymore. They just go there to pick up the money. Yeah. And they're relying on their staff to just continue. And I don't care what anyone says, and I don't care how well of like, I have a really good team, but at the end of the day, if I'm not checking up, at some point they start to slack off, I mean, it's human nature. It's human nature that's going to happen, and they're going to start doing things a little bit differently because, hey, the boss isn't here. And I feel that this way is easier. And maybe they don't understand the reason why you want them to do it this way, but because you're never here and they're the ones doing the work, and they feel that this way is a little bit easier, and they're still getting they start taking these little shortcuts. Yeah. And then that's when quality of the food, at least, and when I refer to all this stuff, I'm always just talking about the food industry because that's what I'm in. Sure. But that's what happens. Yeah. Well, and so when I see a new mom and pop shop open up and people are like, aren't you worried about the competition? I'm like, first of all, we've been here for over 30 years. Yeah. We've always had competition. I know what our product is. I know how our food is. I wish them the best. I go, there's over 100,000 people in Lake Elsinore. I go, and honestly, on a good day, we probably get 1% of that coming in our doors. So I'm like, so there's 99% of the population that's welcome to go, that I could still bring into my shop, but there's more than enough customers to go around for everyone. But what you'll notice is just what you said. You'll see all these people, oh, I just went to this new place. They're awesome. The food's great. And then not even a year down the road, man, that place, I've seen places already sell and become a different place. Yeah. I'm like, what happened? Wasn't that place really good? Yeah. That's what happened.
I will say they realized very quickly, I think they realized, oh shit, because it went whoop and just tanked, and God bless them because they stepped back in. That's good. You know what I mean? And then I remember like the next like one or two times I went in, like it was recovered for sure. Like you could tell they put that love and energy back into it. I think what happened was probably staffing issues. You know what I mean? Like you start during COVID, you get so busy, you create this booming business. couple years into it, maybe you move some of those good people to the new restaurant, and then you rehire people that maybe aren't as passionate, to your point, didn't understand why things were being done a certain way. Like that one little change, like that just makes the food taste different. You know what I mean? And the service was different. And then they realized, oh shit, that shortcut that we took just cost us a bunch of people who used to come here, and now we have to fix it.
Yeah, and to be fair too, I mean, without being too judgy, right? Things happen too, man. Family members get sick. You know, maybe like the main chef's wife got sick and had to lose time. You know, we never know the real stories, you know, but I've just been around long enough to see that a lot of times it's very rare when it's like a family emergency versus people just slacking off.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. They they have that success, the success killer, you know, they get successful. The ego kind of steps in. You might start taking those vacations that you normally would have put off. You start buying those things that you might not have. People get a little lazy.
And it's a lot easier to spend it than it is to earn it, man.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, you now have a POS system that allows you to like track. So how's technology kind of played a role in your business because I mean, being open 30 years, I mean, shit, so much has changed.
Yeah. We used to just handwrite tickets, you know, and have to know, like, if you couldn't do the taxes in your head, you had a calculator but you had to know the rate, you had to know how to apply it and then put it on the receipt.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, other than, I mean, there obviously people are using less cash nowadays, but, and I still feel like cash is king, but in terms of like data and efficiency and just being able to collect and see what's selling, what's working, do I have too many people working at these hours? Because now I can see the scope of everything, right? Like what are our peak times? Is there a room where I really don't need 3 or 4 cashiers? Maybe I can do it with 2, stuff like that. I mean, changing to the POS system that I have right now, and you guys can reach out to me if you guys are interested in knowing. It was probably one of the best business decisions I've made.
Okay.
Because mainly for the fact that before, when I had to make a menu change, I had to change it on one machine, then I had to go and change it on the other machine. We didn't have DoorDash back then, but if I had DoorDash, now I had to go into DoorDash and make all the changes on there. The system that I use right now, I'm at my computer, I make the changes, and then boom, it sends it everywhere.
Nice.
It'll send it to DoorDash, whatever computers we have. I can really go in. Another thing, like we had a generic, like no item button, with item button, extra. So if you order burrito and you wanted no beans, you'd go to the no button, no beans. Then you'd add sour cream, go to add sour cream. And it was hard because you basically were charging the same for a add of sour cream for a burrito than maybe you were for like a taco. But you're not going to put the same amount in a taco than in a burrito.
Yeah.
And those were the little details that, like with the POS system that I have now, I can actually, now it's item specific. Like when you click on a carne asada taco, and a customer might say no lettuce. Well, our cashier is going to go to no. Well, the option for no lettuce isn't even on there because it doesn't come with lettuce.
Yeah.
You know, so she doesn't have to worry. It allows me to train the staff easier that way, because before a customer would say that, right? I want a carne asada taco, no lettuce. And if the cashier doesn't know that it doesn't come with lettuce, she's going to go and put no lettuce.
What do I do?
Then they put the ticket up. Then the cook's like, doesn't come with lettuce. So what do you mean? Like these are the things that happen.
Yeah.
Now you're stopping production because now the cook has to make sure that you just didn't push the wrong button.
Yeah.
And did they mean no onions?
Yeah.
You know, like they have to ask these questions because it doesn't come with lettuce. Why did you put no lettuce?
Yeah.
You know, those are little things, man, that like you learn over time and that people probably never take into account, but they
make sense. Yeah. They make a lot. Do you ever have them work like each other's shifts? So like or side train, like train in multiple positions, so they know like what a cashier has to go through, what a chef has to go. I know it's hard because you obviously have certifications and certain things for certain positions, but
so from front to back, I used to have. I'm really the jack of all trades, so I'm the one that knows all of them. But and back in the day, our kitchen manager, he would take orders. We didn't have a cashier scheduled until like 9, and we would open at 8, so he knew how to work the register. But that was way back when. Now it's pretty much front of house, back of the house. But between those two, everyone, other than I only have two guys and myself that do the actual cooking. So it's my two guys, and then if they need a day off and they can't cover each other, I jump in and I do the cooking and the only reason why I have it this way is consistency.
Yeah.
The less people that are actually doing the cooking of the food, then the more consistent we can keep it. And eventually, when I open up the other location, I'll start training the other guys that I want to take over there to do the cooking. I'll start training them, but it's really just two guys and me. Okay. And then I have my guy on the grill, the guy on the tickets, the prep, dishwashing and prep's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
But realistically, it's like a system, right? I start you in dish and prep, and then you can work your way up. And eventually, yeah, you want to work your way up to the main cook, but there's no availability for that right now.
Yeah.
So they all know if the guy's on the grill, then he's on the grill because he already knows how to do all the other stuff. You know, his next move would be to be the chef.
Yeah.
Same thing with front of the house. Front of the house, we basically just teach you. It's a little bit different, but everyone has to know how to use the register and take orders. But then now with the bar, you know, if you're 21 and over, we'll eventually train you on how to work the bar as well. Because it's just beer and wine, so it's not like we're making like extravagant cocktails and stuff like that. So I just make sure that everyone's trained in how to pour and they get their certs.
Knowing how to pour is very important.
Yeah,
very important. Two things I want to make sure we get to. You know, you took over, right, for the family business, and now you're working to open your second restaurant. I kind of have two questions. One, I definitely want to learn about like when did you make that decision, and like going into, you know, opening the second business. Obviously, it's going to take time, took financial investment. Obviously, you're going to take all the best practices and things over. And then that's actually the second question, and we could probably just start there. Sounds like you've made a lot of improvements and made that store very successful compared to what, you know, you were trying to achieve, right? You wanted to get to that same kind of level that Temecula was doing. And it sounds like you've achieved that, you know, in Lake Elsinore with the expansion and just everything, adding the POS system. Are there any things that you've noticed like that you did specifically at your store that now the family has kind of adapted to multiple other stores?
All right. So yeah, it all ties together. So we actually now, we outsell Temecula with less people working. So that means we're more efficient.
Yeah.
Right?
If it wasn't your family, I'd be like, yeah, fuck you. Yeah, but
well, so now I actually had to go to Temecula and give them like this whole speech, kind of what I just went over now. Yeah. I had to go and tell them, guys, back in the day, this was the more efficient location.
Yeah.
And I basically just told them, hey, we're going to have to like trim, but I told them we're going to trim back because if we have 4 cooks working, we really only need 3. And I know this because of the sales that I have and the amount of people I have working.
Yeah.
But it's not like we're just going to trim your hours. We're also going to give you guys raises.
Yeah.
Because if now we got 3 people working doing the same job as 4, it's going to be a little bit more work.
Yeah.
I know you guys can do it, but we're going to compensate you for that work. So, with me, the whole thing with opening up a second location and why I feel like I needed to is for exactly what I just mentioned about the guy on the grill can't move up. Like he's capped out, right? And I can't really pay him more if I don't give him more responsibility.
Yeah.
Because that's my biggest thing is like, I'll pay you more, but you got to do more work.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of the fact that I pay all my guys above the standard. So if I know that like most taco shops are paying their line cooks $17-18 an hour, then I'm paying my guys $20 an hour.
Yeah.
You know, plus other benefits that I give them. So, I have a stack of applications, man, because word of mouth, people find out like, dude, El Ranchito, the one in Lake Elsinore, and I have to say Lake Elsinore because everyone is different. That's where I kind of try to like, I've told my mom in Temecula, hey, this is what's working for me. Pay them a little bit more. They're going to be more appreciative, you know, and this, and, but because now I'm limited on like where they can move, I'm like, dude, now if I open up a second location, and this is what I told them, I'm not trying to double my income.
Yeah.
I want to be able to pay you guys more. I want to be able to move you guys up. That just means that you guys are going to have more responsibilities, but you're going to be getting a bigger paycheck.
Yeah.
So that's really my goal is, am I going to make more money? Of course not. It makes no sense either, but I'm not trying to double my income. I'm trying to just make a little bit more, but really move my guys up.
Yeah.
And then I can start actually having, because like technically I'm like the general manager right now. I have a kitchen manager and I have people that are like team leads and stuff like that. But realistically, I want to be able to have like a GM,
Yeah.
you know, at each location and stuff like that. And so my whole focus is like continuing to raise their pay and provide that, like, I want to work there kind of atmosphere, you know,
Yeah.
like I want me to be the goal of like where people want to go and work if they're working in that industry.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to compete with like, you know, doctors and stuff like that. But then again, hey, go to school and be a doctor, you know.
Yeah.
But if your line of work is in the kitchen, you want to work in the best kitchen with the best pay, and that's what I want to offer.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the whole reason why I'm opening up another location.
So how far along are you in? That's very respectful. And obviously you're creating a business and family, you know, it's a family owned business, right? Generation after generation. So obviously you opening another store is going to pay out for your kids as well, right? In the future. So, and they maybe have that opportunity. So how far along are you with that second store?
So we just agreed to the lease, but it's actually, the shopping center is already there, and I don't want to like name where and all that, but
Sure.
the shopping center's built, but they're still gonna build the new pad, so it's gonna be a completely new building.
Cool.
And they haven't broken ground, so I'm waiting for them to break ground. So it's kind of like, okay, as soon as they break ground and they give me the blueprints to the building, I can get my architect to start designing, and we can start pulling permits and stuff like that. So it's still really, really fresh. But if everything works out, man, they'll break ground this year and we'll start building towards the end of the year.
Okay, cool.
So
now, obviously opening a new store and learning what you've learned, has the budget process been a little different?
yeah, I'm hoping to over budget this time.
No surprises?
Yeah, no surprises, but the support from family's still there, you know, and then I mean, there's a lot of things. Elsinore has a really wide menu. I'll probably limit the menu to begin with, and then as we grow, open it up a little bit. But yeah, no surprises. And then going back to the kids, like that's the other thing. I have 3, so I have 2 boys and a girl, and my whole thing has always been like, I'm gonna raise them to be good people and to follow their dreams. And the taco shop's always there as a fallback, right? So I grew up wanting to be a professional soccer player, and I really thought I was going to be one.
Nice.
And then as you grow older, you know, things change, but I always knew that taco shop was kind of like my backup plan. I always liked it. I was always in the kitchen. I was always working it. So in my mind, I always knew like this is for me. You know, so it was easy when soccer didn't work out to just fall back. And I actually went into the automotive industry because my mom still wanted me to go to school. So I'm like, if I'm going to go to school, it's going to be for something that I like to do, and I like to work on cars. So I went and did that for a short period. But as soon as I was done with that, I went to the restaurant. I went back to work. With my kids, I'm teaching them the restaurant in case they ever decide that that's what they want to do. But I'm going to raise them to kind of like, hey, go try some things and see what you like and what you're good at. And if life doesn't work out for you, then you could always, you know, come back and try this out too, you know?
Yeah.
But it's definitely not like, I know a lot of people push you like, no, you're going to work the family business and this is what, for me, it's like, hey, at the end of the day, if I'm the last one to own these ones and they have successful lives and they're happy, and as a parent, that's all you want, right? You just want them to be independent and happy doing whatever they're doing. So that's where I sit with that.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to imagine the family's very proud of kind of the story and right. And like, you know, your mom giving you the shop and having you go run it 11 years later, here you are opening another one. It's successful and you're going back to Temecula to kind of clean that operation up a little bit and pay back into it. So I'm sure, you know, the family's very proud. Is there anything you wanted to kind of share, you know, with other business owners or people who are in generational family businesses that, you know, maybe can give some advice?
Yeah, so I know we're running out of time, so I'll just try to finish it up real
Don't
quick.
worry about the time. I just I look at the damn clock all the time.
No, it's good. Just to finish off with like the whole third generation destroying the family business thing was okay. So growing up, I always had people telling me like, oh, you only have what you have because of your parents and the successful business. And like I said, my mom, she where she grew up, they barely had frijoles to eat, you know? So like, so realistically, like she's self-made, her family's self-made, but it is easy to say that like, okay, well, they passed you a successful business. Well, it's hard to maintain that success for the same reasons that we talked about, right? But I'm having a small little
Brain fart
brain
does
fart
it.
now.
Does it?
Um,
Well, just to kind of in that topic, you know, like if you're handed a business, you've got to grow it just as much as if you're starting a business. Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. There is no shortcut to a successful business. You can be handed the most successful business possible, and you change one thing. And it fucks. I learned this personal lesson actually 2 months ago. I thought I was crushing my business that I opened this past year. I thought I was crushing it. I mean, we had our best sales month, 30% month over month revenue improvement for fucking 7 straight months. And I took a look at my marketing firm that I was using. I was like, they were providing me a list of like leads. And I was like, I'm paying more for these leads than the natural leads I'm going out and getting. Yeah. I'm literally flying fucking cars and going to gym setups and doing all this stuff. I was like, I don't need these guys. Now, mind you, I had them for the last 7 months. So I looked at it and was like, bye, cut them. Guess what happened? Fucking the marketing went like this, because what I didn't realize was, yeah, on paper, they might be producing and showing me the leads that are naturally coming into like the link form that they're producing. But I wasn't consciously aware that the way digital marketing works is you only get a little taste on this paper, but those people still find you. So like they might see the form and not fill it out and come back around a day or two later to Google or to Facebook or to whatever. And I thought all those leads were coming through from me and my ground marketing. Nope. So 2 months in, fucking sales went, and now I got to pivot back up. You don't learn that unless you go through that, you know, whether it was, it's just learning lessons, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And now that I had some time to think, the one thing you said about like, and does anyone listen to like the advice I have in my own family? Right.
Yeah.
So when I was working as a cook, I used to try to make some changes myself. I used to tell my mom, "Hey, I think if we do things this way, it'll be good. You know, it'll help us." And I remember my mom used to be like, "Well, this is the way I do it, and when you open up your own restaurant, you can do it your way."
Nice.
And I'm like, "Damn, dude, like that, you know, like." And so when I took over the shop, I started making my changes, right? And then, yeah, sure enough, some things worked, but some things didn't work the way I thought that they would.
Yeah.
And so I went back to the traditional way. But the things that did work, then after at the beginning, I was like a little kid. I'm like, hey, I did this and it worked, you know? And they were like, whatever, dude.
Yeah.
It took time for them to realize that, like, hey, he knows, like, between the family, right? Because my aunts and uncles and my mom, like, they've been doing this their whole lives. So who am I to really come in and tell them that these changes are going to be better for their business?
Yeah.
But after like a long time of like me owning the shop and like growing it to where I've grown it, now our Marietta location has a sports bar. Now one of our Temecula locations is planning on opening up a sports bar. You know? So things like that. Now I think I have a little bit more voice with them.
Yeah.
Everyone in my family is super hard headed, so it's like sometimes it's like I'm talking to this piece of wood, but no, I think they do listen a little bit more. Like, you know, especially my mom. Like my mom will listen. Like I've actually had her change a few recipes now to make things a little bit easier and better and she's made those changes. So yeah, my voice still isn't the loudest voice in the room. Yeah. but I have a voice.
Yeah. There's in hospitality, there's Franklin Covey and Stephen Covey. They have this like whole program. And one of the things that they say is seek first to understand, then to be understood. And it actually, I've kept that like in my mind for years because I'm a talker and I love to boast and I love to like, you know, but there was a period of time in my early career that I would always tell people what I was doing. I would tell everybody. And then like some of the shit would not, like it would work for a little bit, but then it'd fall off. And I'm like, shit, I told everybody about that, you know? So, I had to learn over a period of time, people don't want to listen to you constantly either. You know what I mean? Like, and so if you spend a lot of time around other business owners or other family members that are in the same industry or business or whatever it is, sometimes you just have to be quiet and just let them tell you what they're doing and what they're working on. And then like, let them ask, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to tell everyone everything, you know, like you're like, you know what, let me just go ahead and keep doing what I'm doing. They're going to see the sales. right? They're going to see the progress. They're going to see the numbers. 1% of 100,000 people come through there every day. Are you kidding me? 1,000 fucking people. That's like a gym. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's crazy. You know, so I think at the end of the day, you don't really have to talk too loud anymore for people to want to listen.
Yeah. And as I mature, I learned that too. Because at the beginning, you start getting the success and you want to share it. Well, at least I do. You know, some people don't like to share their success, but I always wanted to share, like, hey guys, this is working for me. Do it, you know, like, and then I'm like, why won't they listen? You know, and now it's like, okay, now I just wait. You know, if they want the advice, I'll give it to them.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I let everyone kind of do their own thing. Maturity. I mean, I don't think we stop mature. There's stuff that now I look back and I'm like, now I understand why our parents did things the way they did. You know, it makes sense to me now. You know, but yeah, man. I guess if I had to give like advice, it's really just never stop working, you know, continue to put the work in one way or another, and really take care of your people, your own people, you know, because, you know, that to me, that's been a game changer. The fact that I can be, not everyone can afford to pay them top dollar. I get it. You know, sometimes you're just not that busy, but pay them as well as you can, and then try to take care of them. When I couldn't pay my top guys, I used to tell them, look, man, I know that the competition might come and offer you 25, 50 cents more an hour. This is what it was back in the day. Like, that was a big deal. Yeah. And I'd be like, but here, I guarantee your hours. You know, I don't send you home when we're slow. We always find work to do, and I take care of them. Like, I'm respectful to them. I feel like I just treat them decent, man. Like, it's not that hard, you know? And then, a lot of when people would leave for that 25 or 50 cents raise, they were usually back within 6 months because they see that the grass isn't always greener, you know? And so that to me has like been like super impactful and a game changer for me. And now that I do have the volume, now I can afford to take care of them a little bit better, you know? And that's why I'm trying to take that next step. But, and, you know, I feel bad because I haven't even mentioned my wife and my kids, really.
It's all good.
But, you know, shout out to them because sometimes I do have to make sacrifices, you know, and they never complain and they're always there and they understand when dad has to go to work. I was at the shop until almost 1 o'clock in the morning on Thursday or Wednesday night because we had to get some equipment fixed and that was the only time we can do it. So I don't get to put the kids to sleep on those nights. You know, I don't get to put them to bed. And we have our routine at home. And sometimes I have to break those routines. Or sometimes I have to go in early because it's 2 o'clock in the morning and someone decided they're going to break a window and try to steal stuff. Which nowadays, no one keeps cash out. If you're a thief, guys, we don't keep cash out anymore, right? You're costing me more money in the window you break. And and that's true. That's usually what it is, man. I'm like, I got to replace a window now. Plus, I got woken up at 2 in the morning. And the whole ordeal sucks. But yeah, so shout out to my wife, Stephanie. I love you.
There you go, man. Yeah, you got to pay respect to the family. And and at the end of the day, actually, I just did a podcast about this. It'll get posted before this. But, you know, there's a lot of pressure on men in general and the sacrifices that, you know, you have to make to kind of just see everything through. And a lot of times it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like, you think I want to go? I don't want to go.
No, I get it.
But you know what I mean? And it happens sometimes, you know, you got to take that phone call. You've got to put in that extra hour or two. You know, it just happens sometimes like that. And it's unfortunate. It takes a rare breed of individual to do it. It takes an even rare breed of partner, you know, to be there for you to support it, you know? So for sure. Shout out Stephanie, you said?
Yeah.
Shout out Stephanie. Listen, man, we are at the end of our time here, but we've covered a lot of stuff and I really appreciate you coming on. It was a pleasure meeting you. I obviously need some pozole, so I'm going to end up heading over there probably for lunch or something like that.
You'll probably see me over there.
Yeah, dude, I will pay you into the business because I love it and I respect the family-owned side of businesses. I love that and just appreciate you, brother. So if there's anything I could ever do for you in the future, please, you know, let me know.
Yeah, I had a great time, man. Really good.
Fuck it. Cool. All right, brother.
All right, man.